Welcome to Dignity Planning, a pre-planning tool offered by the Dignity Memorial Provider Network. And congratulations on taking a valuable and important step towards protecting those you care about most.
We realize end-of-life planning is a difficult subject, but it's one of the most caring decisions you can make.
When it came to making my dad's funeral arrangements, pretty much everything fell on me. When the time came, I called the toll-free number I got from Dignity Planning, and they immediately connected me with the funeral home that my father had chosen. With the proceeds from my father's life insurance, we not only covered the funeral costs and the airfare, there were actually funds left over. We're so fortunate that my father planned ahead and took out life insurance. I was afraid we wouldn't be able to afford everything, and we feel extremely grateful.
Planning ahead is the key to easing what could otherwise be a stressful situation for family and loved ones.
I'm terribly sorry about your loss. Tell me, did your father wish to be buried or cremated?
Buried. Cremated. I'd rather have him cremated so that we can keep his ashes.
I understand how you feel, but he would have wanted a place where friends and family could visit, and that can't be in the living room of your home.
By pre-planning your end-of-life arrangements, those you love and leave behind will know exactly what your final wishes are. And by setting aside funds for your final expenses in advance, you also help alleviate the financial burden that would be placed on your loved ones.
For all of us, there comes a moment when we must face the sorrow of losing the ones we love. Wouldn't it be nice if those you left behind were able to share in the experience of paying tribute to your life instead of dealing with the burden of deciding what you wanted? Pre-planning isn't just a smart choice, it's a compassionate one as well.
Your father took some very caring steps years ago to make this time easier on you both. Your father pre-planned all his funeral arrangements and also set aside funds for everything in advance.
Leave it to Dad. Always preaching to us to have a plan for everything. The funeral service was exactly what he wanted and what I hoped it would be.
Thank you for all your help.
Creating an end-of-life plan now will alleviate much of the grief your family feels later.
Making end-of-life arrangements using Dignity Planning can benefit you and your family.
To get started right now, talk to an insurance professional. Still wondering if end-of-life preparations are right for you? Listen to how others have benefited from pre-planning.
My mother had been terminally ill for several years. At one point, the doctor admitted her to the hospital because her condition had worsened. Up until then, we had never discussed what would happen when she died. I brought up the subject one day and was so relieved to learn that she had already pre-planned her funeral. It was a tremendous comfort to know that she had completed a plan and that all I would have to do is make one call.
Until recently, my wife and I were under the impression that we had everything taken care of when it came to planning ahead. Turns out we were wrong. Even though we financially planned for our retirement, we'd not set aside funding for our final expenses.
We reconsidered our situation after hearing about the ordeal our son went through last month when his mother-in-law passed away.
He said that the family was torn apart because no one agreed as to what his mother-in-law's final wishes would have been or whether there was any money set aside for the funeral.
We would never want to burden our children by not being prepared. That's why we decided to establish our own end-of-life plans before it's too late.
Thanks for joining us.